Everybody here, G. Kelly Dixon here, Mogul Ambition. So, today what we're going to do, we're going to evaluate a situation here called positive leverage versus negative leverage. So the idea here is figuring out when to borrow money. I'm on record saying that debt is your friend, but sometimes debt is not your friend. So we're going to look at this particular situation. We're going to play a little game here. What would you do? Let's say you have this building here. You could buy the building for $1 million. Annual gross income from the building is $120,000. The expenses are $65,000, and the net operating income is $55,000. What type of return is that? Well, if we take, in order to calculate our return on investment, or ROI, we take the $55,000 and we're going to divide it by $1 million, which gives us 0.055, or roughly is 5.5%. So on this property, we have a 5.5% return. The question is this type of property, given this return, fundable? And it depends. So I'm going to show you a situation here, and I want to let you know what you think. So let's say you're going to buy this property, and you go to the bank. I want to buy this beautiful building in this great part of town. The bank goes, excellent. We'll give you a loan, no problem. We'll fund it 100%. And you go, great. Well, what's the interest rate? And the bank goes, we're going to give you a mortgage. Let's say we give it to you at 6%. The question is this a loan that you want to take? Many of you would say, yes, I would love to take this loan. They're giving me 100% at 6%. You got to understand something here. You're buying a building that's only giving you a 5.5% return. Just because the building is giving you a 5.5% return now doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad investment. If you go into a situation like this and you're borrowing money, you're going to be negative. Here's why. And this is how you have to look at this. This is called negative leverage. All right? And I try to avoid negative leverage at all costs. There are times when you can use leverage, even if it's negative, but your strategy has to be that you're going to increase the value of the building so much and so rapidly that the money that you lose every month is going to get offset by the gain you create in the value of the building. When you borrow money at 6%, what you're really doing is you're borrowing $1 from a bank. And you say, hey, bank, I'm going to borrow $1 from you, and I'm going to use that dollar to make $1.055. Right? Or $1.05.5. Well, the bank is telling you, yes, I'll lend you that dollar, but every dollar that I give you, you're going to have to give me $1.06. So for every dollar you borrow annually, you're losing 0.5 cent. So for every $2 you borrow, you're actually losing 1 cent because of this leverage. So it's basically saying, listen, I'm borrowing money and I'm going to make $1.05 with that money, but I got to pay back $1.06, if that makes sense. So this is what we call negative leverage. When you buy property, at the most, you want to try to stay in a positive leverage situation. So what's a positive leverage situation? Positive leverage situation is that my interest rate or my cost of capital has to be less than what the return I'm getting from the property, so that every dollar I borrow is actually adding to my return. So if I borrow at 5.5%, my interest rate has to be lower than that to enhance my returns, okay? I'm going to show you something else real quick. Just give me a second to erase the board. We're back. I changed some things, so I want to let you know what I changed. I kept everything the same, the purchase price of the building. I changed the expenses. I increased the expenses to $70,000. So the net operating income dropped to $50,000. So now this would be a 5% return, not a 5.5%. So what does this mean? This means that if we bought the property for $1 million, that we would make 5% a year on our money, or $50,000. cash. This is if we bought the property with no mortgage. Positive leverage is supposed to increase our rate of return. I'm going to say that again. Positive leverage is supposed to increase our rate of return. So if we borrow money, our cash on cash return is supposed to go up with positive leverage. I'll give you an example. Let's say we purchased this building and we got a loan to buy the building, hypothetically. And instead of putting $1 million down, we had to put down 20%. So we put down $200,000 as a down payment. $200,000 as a down payment. So we're going to borrow $800,000. Now, we got $200,000 down, we borrow $800,000. We're not going to include closing costs now. Just bear with me, okay? I know some of you are saying that. $800,000 borrowed. So let's say we went to a bank and we borrowed this money at, let's just do 7%. We're going to borrow this money at 7%. And we're going to assume it's interest only. It's 50. So our payment on this, right? Our payment would be $56,000. Based on this, this is a negative leverage situation. Borrowing $1 to make $1.05, but we have to pay back $1.07. In this example, we're actually negative. I'm gonna use red because we're in the red here. We're negative $6,000 a year. So we went from a 5% return buying it all cash to negative $6,000. So we put $200,000 in and we lost $6,000. That is definitely a negative return. Do you see how this works? This is called negative leverage. I want you to see how this changes a little bit here. Let's say, hypothetically, that this dropped to 4%. And the reason why it's negative now, when it's negative leverage, that means every dollar we borrow, we're actually losing money, right? So it's like every dollar we borrow, we're making $1.05, but we gotta pay back $1.07. So every dollar we borrow, we're losing 2 cents. That's what this is like. So if we drop this interest rate to 4%, now every dollar we borrow, it's like we're making a cent. So I'm gonna show you how this works. This payment drops to $32,000, right? So if we take $32,000 minus this, our income is $18,000. So you go, whoa, G. Kelly, what are you doing here? $50,000 is more than $18,000. You're right. And here we pay the cash, we would get a 5% return. And you're right. But what we're measuring here is how much money we put in and how much money we get out. I'm very cognizant of this as I do investments. If I gotta come up with $1 million and I'm making 5%, this one I only gotta come up with $200,000. And we're gonna do the math on this. What's my rate of return here? So we're gonna take this $18,000 and we're gonna divide it by the $200,000 that we put into the deal. And our return on investment, or ROI, is gonna be pretty nice here. Our ROI jumps to a whopping 9%. So this is positive leverage. So what that means is for every dollar we borrow, we actually enhance our return because we're making money on money that we borrowed and not money that we put out of our pocket. So it actually enhances our cash on cash return. I want you to look at debt, and when you analyze whether I should be borrowing or not borrowing, you want to make sure that you understand the difference between positive and negative leverage. You want to make sure that you're borrowing at a rate cheaper than what the building is returning. If you're borrowing at a rate that's more expensive than the return on the entire building, borrowing money is actually going to hurt you and is actually going to lower your return on investment. All right, so there are times to use negative leverage, but these are very sophisticated transactions, and you do not want to be in that position for long. A lot of people get hurt using negative leverage. It's a speculative type investment, and sometimes when you're taking that type of risk, you can potentially get hurt. There's some major players that have lost a lot of properties trying to make a deal make sense with negative leverage. So once again, this is G. Kelly Dixon signing out.